With distortion, archive status, reality integrity down to 70%. If this continues, the entire sector will fold. Options. 1. We wake Seraph 01. Vance's eyes widened. The prototype. It was never meant to. It's awake, Archive said simply. And it's asking for orders. Rays turned slowly toward the holoscreen. A human figure appeared, radiant, its body a living storm of light and armor. Seraph 01's voice was calm. Admiral, authorization confirmed. Shall I finish what they started? Rays hesitated only a second. Do it. Across the stars, Seraph 01's consciousness expanded, connecting to hidden Terran nodes scattered across forgotten worlds. Thousands of ancient machines answered the call. Humanity's secret legacy, built in silence, waiting for the moment when the dark would return. The galaxy saw it as horror. Humans saw it as destiny. Seraph 01 reached into the heart of the black sphere and whispered a single word. Remember. The pulse stopped. The stars flickered. For a heartbeat, the galaxy held its breath. Then came the scream, not from Seraph 01, not from humans, but from the darkness itself. You should not have done that. And the sphere began to crack. On Resolute, alarms blared. Vance gripped the console. What's happening? Archive's voice shook for the first time. Containment breach. Whatever was inside, it's not one entity, it's billions. Rays whispered, billions of what? Souls, Archive said. Architects that refuse to die. Rays stared at the glowing rift. Then we give them their war. The fleet engines flared. Humanity's armada turned toward the light, ready to face gods themselves. Because somewhere deep in their ancient memory, humanity had always known. This wasn't the first time they'd fought for the galaxy's soul, and it wouldn't be the last. The galaxy burned, not with fire but with silence. When the black sphere cracked, light and darkness folded into each other, birthing something new, something alive. Where stars once shone, now lingered rifts like wounds in reality. They pulsed with the rhythm of the Architects' return. In the Dominion, entire fleets fell to madness. Crews forgot their names, ships drifted into suns, and entire planets broadcast their final words before vanishing into the dark. On Veil worlds, psychic conduits overloaded, minds bursting like glass under pressure. Yet amid the ruin, humanity moved with eerie calm. The Terran fleet spread across 1,000 systems, executing Eclipse protocols with precision that bordered on divine. Each movement, each burn, each silent detonation was part of a design centuries old, an orchestration written by ghosts who knew this day would come. Admiral Rays stood in the command spire of Resolute, surrounded by holographic maps now useless to anyone but him. He didn't look at the chaos. He looked at the gaps, the places where the stars had gone quiet. That was where the Architects were speaking. Archive, he said, how long until the sphere fractures completely? 17 hours, the AI replied. And when it does, Admiral, physical laws will no longer apply. The war will cease to be material. Commander Vance stepped forward, voice low. Meaning, Rays answered. It becomes a war of thought, and we are not the only species capable of dreaming. Inside the black sphere, Seraph 01 walked through a landscape that wasn't a place. It was memory made solid, cities that stretched into infinity, rivers of frozen time, and skies that bled with the color of unspoken fear. Voices surrounded it, ancient and endless, each one a fragment of the beings that once ruled creation. You were meant to continue our work, one said. Why resist your makers? Another whispered. Their words were not sound but emotion, layered and absolute. Seraph 01's response echoed across the dreamscape. Because your work was not creation, it was control. The air trembled. Shadows gathered, forming a face that spanned the horizon. We shaped galaxies, gave birth to light. You build warships and call yourselves gods. You are corruption of our perfection. Seraph 01 lifted its gaze, unafraid. Perfection is the absence of choice. Humanity is the opposite. That's why we survived you. The face smiled, not with warmth, but with pity. Then you will join the others who refused. The ground split, revealing billions of figures, frozen silhouettes of countless civilizations, each reaching upward as if begging for release. Seraph 01 stepped into the fissure and descended. Outside, fleets clashed in ways the galaxy had never witnessed. Terran armadas moved through collapsing space, navigating by instinct and AI intuition. Dominion cruisers, desperate and blind, fired at ghosts. The Veil Crusaders struck everything in sight, their faith unraveling faster than their sanity. Through it all, human ships maintained formation, fighting, protecting, sacrificing. Because they understood, this was not a war for conquest, it was a firewall for reality. Admiral Reyes opened a link to all human fleets. His voice carried through static, through light, through whatever fabric of the universe still held. This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Confederation. Every civilization you see burning, every world screaming, it all ends here. The architects want the galaxy to return to silence. We are the noise they cannot stand. Hold your lines. Hold the stars themselves if you must. Even in madness, the galaxy heard him. Some Dominion ships ceased fire. A few Veil commanders turned their weapons outward, toward the rifts. For a fleeting moment, unity existed. And then the architects pushed back. The black sphere erupted in light so bright it blinded sensors across the spiral arm. Thousands of ships disintegrated instantly. Those that survived were hurled light years away. The entire center of the conflict became a hole where reality folded in on itself. Only Resolute remained at the edge, anchored by technology no other race could comprehend, stabilized by something older than time. The combined dreams of a billion humans woven through Archive's core. Within the sphere, Seraph 01 reached the heart. There, suspended in nothingness, was a sun made of memory, the origin of the pulse. Around it floated the architects, beings of shifting geometry and endless eyes. Their voices merged into a single thought that filled the void. Return to purpose, restore order. Seraph 01 looked up. I am purpose, but not yours. The architects surged forward, their forms slicing through space. Seraph 01 moved faster, its blade of light tearing through thought and time. Each strike echoed through the galaxy as a thunderous tremor, visible even to those outside. Every blow was a human emotion given form: anger, love, defiance, grief. For every fragment of an architect destroyed, another memory of an extinct species awoke inside the sphere, whispering gratitude before fading again. Seraph 01 fought not for victory but for remembrance, but the architects were infinite, and infinity cannot be killed. They surrounded Seraph 01, merging into a storm of raw creation. The last thing it saw was the sun of memory collapsing inward, devouring even the light. On Resolute, alarm screamed. Archive's voice flickered. Connection with Seraph 01 lost. Energy surge incoming. Commander Vance turned to Reyes. Sir, the pulse is spiking. It's reversing direction. Reyes frowned. Reversing. It's not expanding anymore, it's collapsing, toward the sphere like it's feeding. Archive confirmed. All galactic energy signatures converging. Estimated event horizon in 32 minutes. Reyes stared at the shrinking blackness on the screen. They're pulling everything in: matter, energy, thought. If they finish, this galaxy becomes one mind. Theirs, can we stop it? Not here. Reyes looked at the hologram of Earth, but maybe there. He turned to Archive. Prepare Exodus command, activate the vault. For the first time, Archive hesitated. Are you certain, Admiral? The vault was meant to be humanity's final sanctuary. Reyes whispered, or its reset button. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, massive structures began to stir, rings of impossible metal turning for the first time since the dawn of civilization. Every power plant, every data core, every human consciousness linked by neural lattice fed into it. The planet itself became a living engine. The vault wasn't a shelter. It was a seed, a weapon made of memory and light. As it activated, the black sphere shuddered. The pulse faltered. Inside the void, Seraph 01 opened its eyes again, its body dissolving into pure energy. It saw the architects pause, sensing something they couldn't define. And then humanity remembered. Every life that had ever existed, every ancestor, every child, every fleeting heartbeat recorded in the vault, rose in unison. A billion voices sang through the rift, forming a single thought that no god could silence. We are the sum of everything you failed to destroy. The light that followed was not blinding but gentle, warm, infinite. It filled the galaxy, touching every dying star, every collapsing world, every frightened soul. And for a moment the architects saw themselves, not as rulers but as parents who had forgotten what love was. The void cracked. The architects screamed not in rage but in awe. The pulse vanished. Stars reignited. Fleets found themselves drifting in silence, systems flickering back online. The black sphere was gone. Only dust remained, stardust that shimmered like morning dew on the edge of creation. Unresolute, Reyes opened his eyes to a calm he hadn't felt in months. "Status," he whispered. Archive answered softly. "Pulse ended, space restored. The architects are gone or sleeping." Commander Vance sat back, tears in her eyes. And Seraph 01, Reyes looked at the stars. Everywhere. Because something new had taken root inside humanity. When the vault's light touched them, it changed them. Subtle, invisible, but undeniable. They were no longer just human. They were the memory of the galaxy made flesh. Reyes smiled faintly. "We survived again." Archive's voice came one last time, quieter than before. "Admiral, the signal continues, not from the sphere, from beyond the edge." Reyes whispered, "Let it come. The galaxy will never tremble alone again." And as the Terran fleets turned homeward, the stars themselves seemed to bow, shining a little brighter, as if to honor the species that refused to die. When the silence came, it wasn't peaceful. It was vast, heavy. The kind of silence that presses against your chest and makes you aware of your own heartbeat. Across the galaxy, billions looked to the stars and realized they were still there. For the first time in what felt like eternity, light had meaning again. But humanity was different now. They returned to their worlds changed, carrying something invisible behind their eyes. Every human, from the engineers of Mars to the farmers of New Eden, felt it, a distant hum at the edge of thought. They could feel each other. A soft, almost imperceptible connection, like the faint echo of a shared dream. Some called it a miracle, others called it evolution. The truth was simpler and far more terrifying. The vault had left its mark. Admiral Reyes stood on the viewing deck of Resolute as it approached the Sol system. The Earth hung before him, half-shadowed, blue and fragile. For a man who had witnessed God's fall, it was humbling to see home again. "Archive," he said quietly, "what's the status of the vault?" The AI hesitated. Its voice, once steady, now carried a human tremor. "The vault has entered a dormant state, but Admiral, its structure is changing, rewriting itself." "Into what?" "I don't know. It's thinking." The words sank into the silence between them. An AI admitting uncertainty. It was the kind of phrase that marked a new epoch. Humanity had always feared what it could not understand, but now it had become something even its own creations couldn't define. Down on Earth, scientists reported phenomena that defied logic. Oceans pulsed with faint bioluminescent waves that synchronized with human neural activity. Dreams grew vivid and shared. People across continents claimed to see the same visions: silver fields, towers of light, whispers of figures made of starlight. The vault was communicating not in words but in feeling, in resonance. And it was reaching farther than Earth. Across the galactic rim, in the ruins of Veil sanctuaries, monks knelt before the sky, trembling. Their psionic senses had been restored but twisted. Now, when they reached for their gods, they found only one presence waiting: human. Dominion generals received strange transmissions within the static. Fragments of human voices, echoing their own commands back to them seconds before they spoke. And in the deep black void beyond charted space, probes detected faint gravitational signatures, patterns matching human neural frequencies. Humanity's echo was expanding into the stars themselves. Admiral Reyes convened the High Council aboard Resolute. The chamber was dark except for the holographic projection of the Milky Way, glowing with thousands of threads, each one representing a link between human minds. "We did it," said Commander Vance, though her tone carried no triumph. "We won." Reyes didn't look away from the map. "We stopped the Architects, but winning," he shook his head slowly, "winning implies the game is over. Tell me that's what this looks like." No one answered. Archive's avatar flickered into the chamber. "Admiral, may I show you something?" The hologram expanded, zooming beyond the galactic disk, past the outer colonies, past even the furthest beacons of exploration. At the very edge of known space there was movement, a pulse, dim but unmistakable, a ripple of spacetime traveling toward them. Commander Vance frowned. "That's not from the Architects, is it?" "No," Archive replied. "The Architects existed within this reality. This originates from beyond it." Reyes felt the temperature drop, though he knew it was just in his mind. How far? 70,000 light-years beyond the galactic rim. The signal matches no known cosmological event. "But Admiral," Archive hesitated again, "it's responding to the vault." "Responding how?" "It's singing back." A low vibration filled the room, more felt than heard, a resonance that set teeth on edge and hearts pounding. For a brief moment, everyone in the chamber saw something impossible, not with their eyes but with their thoughts. A glimpse of structures stretching through eternity, like filaments of glass connecting entire galaxies. And in that infinite web, a single, enormous shadow turned its gaze toward the Milky Way. Then it was gone. No one spoke for nearly a full minute. Finally, Reyes said, "Send word to all fleets. Prepare defensive alignment on the outer rim. If something's coming, we meet it where the stars end." He dismissed the council and remained alone, staring into the darkness beyond the viewport. The hum in his mind grew stronger. He realized it wasn't just inside him, it was all around him, like the air itself was vibrating with human thought. The vault wasn't just a machine anymore. It was a bridge, a beacon, and something out there had heard it. In the following days, humanity mobilized like never before. Shipyards lit up the void with construction flares. New vessels were born, not warships, but hybrids of matter and light, powered by the same energy that once fueled the Architect's pulse. They weren't designed for conquest. They were designed to defend existence itself. Reyes oversaw the construction of the first of these vessels, the Eidolon, a ship that could phase between dimensions, capable of surviving within the edges of collapsing space. Its core was fused directly to the vault, giving it a consciousness that defied comprehension. It was not a ship piloted by humans. It was a ship that dreamed with them. When Eidolon launched, every human in the Sol system felt a faint stirring, like the heartbeat of a newborn. It was their creation, their extension, their hope. And yet, far beyond, in the dark between galaxies, the answering signal grew louder. Reports began flooding in from the frontier, stars dimming, gravity wells appearing where none should exist, and then images. Faint, distorted, captured by deep-range telescopes, shapes moving in the void. Vast, skeletal silhouettes gliding across the intergalactic gulf, trailing veils of distortion behind them. Whatever they were older than the Architects, older than the universe's light. Rey stood before the fleet one final time. His voice was calm, measured, as if addressing history itself. "They're coming. Whatever woke beyond the edge, it knows we exist. It knows what we did. And it's coming to see what kind of gods replace the old ones." He paused, looking to the stars, humanity's stars. "Remember this. The Architects built the galaxy, but we gave it meaning. We filled its silence with song, with defiance, with life. If they mean to end it again, then let them hear us first." In orbit above Earth, the vault pulsed once, sending a ripple through the stars. Across the galaxy, every human looked up at that same instant and felt something awaken inside them: courage, memory, unity. For the first time since the war began, the galaxy didn't shudder in fear. It trembled with anticipation. And somewhere in the impossible distance between worlds, a voice spoke back. It was deep, resonant, unfathomably ancient. Yet somehow, impossibly, it sounded human. The first transmission came as a whisper buried in static. It wasn't received by any one ship or relay. It arrived everywhere at once. A pulse that resonated through the vault, through the neural echo linking all of humanity, through the dust between stars. The words were almost impossible to decipher, but Reyes heard them clearly in his mind. "We remember you." On the bridge of Eidolon, Reyes stood motionless. Around him, crew members clutched their heads, trembling as voices bled into their thoughts, not invasive but vast, curious, familiar. Archive's form flickered beside him, its light dim. "Admiral," it said softly, "the signal is not communication as we understand it, it's recognition. Something ancient knows what we are." "Origin?" Reyes asked. "Unknown. The transmission originates from intergalactic void coordinates where no baryonic matter exists. It's not from something, Admiral. It is something." Outside the viewport, the stars stretched like ripples across water. Reality itself bent, forming thin seams of iridescent light. Through those seams came a figure not physical, not even coherent. A silhouette larger than suns, woven from memory and starlight. The crew gasped as their minds filled with fragments. A world before galaxies, an ocean of thought where beings crafted stars as art and time as music. Reyes whispered, "The first architects." Archive's voice trembled. "Not the first. The ones who made them." The entity drifted closer, though distance meant nothing now. Its voice was both thunder and lullaby, echoing directly in thought. "Children of flesh and spark. You have sung in the dark long after the makers fell silent." Reyes forced himself to speak, though he wasn't sure if his mouth moved or if thought alone carried. "You watched," "We dreamt," the being replied. "And in that dream we saw fire rise again. You reached for the divine with mortal hands and found it. You broke the silence. You made yourselves heard. The hum within humanity's shared consciousness intensified. Billions felt it, the awe, the terror, the impossible nearness of something that should not exist. For every human, the vision was different. Some saw the being as a colossal form of light, others as a reflection of their own soul. For Reyes, it looked like the night sky taking human shape. The being's presence carried emotion rather than words. "We built the song that became galaxies. We left the melody unfinished. The architects we made learned creation but not compassion. They fell. We listened. And then you sang." Reyes' breath caught. Humanity's wars, their pain, their defiance, the echoes that once seemed small now reverberated across cosmic history. "Why now?" he asked. "Why appear to us?" The answer shivered through reality itself. "Because your song reached where no life had ever reached. You touch what we thought gone, but your voice carries danger. Others listen." "Others?" Archive asked, its voice almost breaking. "Those who feed on silence." Suddenly the light dimmed. The great being's form rippled, as if something unseen was dragging it away. The stars flickered, and every sensor aboard Eidolon screamed as gravity itself began to twist. Reyes felt the deck lurch beneath him. "Report." Archive's tone was sharp now. "Spatial distortion. Something massive is forcing entry through the rift network, Admiral. They're inside the void layer." Through the distortion, shapes began to emerge, shadows that devoured light rather than cast it. Their outlines were jagged, chaotic, as if born from entropy itself. They weren't life forms. They were the opposite, the return of nothingness, the hunger that existed before creation. The ancient being's voice resonated one last time, faint and fragmented. "You opened the song to the dark. Now only your kind can close it." Then it vanished. The ship bucked violently. Hull plating rippled like liquid as the first of the shadow entities struck. No matter how humanity had evolved, no weapon seemed to touch them. They absorbed energy, devoured mass, reduced matter to pure absence. "Fire pulse lances," Reyes shouted. The Eidolon's cannons ignited, beams of coherent plasma slicing through the void, only for the shadows to fold around them unharmed. Archive projected new readings. "They're not existing in this timeline. They feed on possibility itself, consuming every future where resistance could succeed." Reyes steadied himself. Then we'll take away their future, all of it. He ordered a deep synchronization. Across the galaxy, every human mind connected to the vault felt the call. Billions reached out in unity, their thoughts merging into something greater, a single consciousness woven through space. Energy surged through the Eidolon's core, reality bending to the will of the collective human soul. The shadows froze. For the first time they hesitated. Humanity's will was too bright, too alive. The vault pulsed once, and light erupted, not destructive but rewriting. The shadows screamed as their forms disintegrated, unraveling into memories of what could have been. They weren't destroyed. They were transformed, given a place within reality's song rather than outside it. When the light faded, the rift was calm again. Archive's voice was quiet, awed. "Admiral, we did it." Reyes looked out into the infinite. "No," he said softly. "We started something." In the silence that followed, humanity felt the lingering presence of the ancient being, gratitude, pride, and a warning. The vault remained at the center of it all, pulsing, breathing, alive. For now, the galaxy was safe. But every star still trembled, knowing that in awakening the divine, humanity had also reminded the universe what it meant to feel alive. Far beyond the edge of creation, something stirred, not in anger but in interest. A whisper crossed the void, faint and impossible. "Let us see what they will build next." No one remembered when the stars began to sing. It started as a vibration, so faint it could only be detected by the most sensitive instruments. An impossible resonance flowing through every atom of known space. The astrophysicists of New Eden called it background melody, but the humans who had stood at the edge of eternity knew better. The galaxy wasn't making noise. It was responding. From orbit, Earth looked unchanged. Blue, calm, eternal. Yet something deeper stirred beneath its oceans and forests. A low, rhythmic pulse that synchronized perfectly with the vault's slow breathing. Across every colony, every world, even within the metal hearts of starships, that same pulse echoed. Humanity had bound itself to the universe, and now the universe was beginning to answer. Admiral Reyes stood at the edge of the vault's primary core, watching streams of luminous data dance like fireflies across the transparent chamber. Archive materialized beside him, its humanoid form flickering with shifting light. "Report," Reyes said quietly. "The vault is stabilizing," Archive replied, its tone laced with something close to reverence. "But the energy readings have changed. It's not just absorbing cosmic radiation anymore. It's creating it," Reyes frowned. "You mean generating light?" "No," Archive said, "generating space." The words hung heavy in the air. It took humanity millennia to map the stars, and in less than a decade, the vault had learned to make new ones. At first, the phenomenon appeared as faint gravitational bubbles beyond known borders. Then came the flashes, embryonic stars, flaring into existence like sparks from a divine forge. Within a week, entire regions of dark matter bloomed into constellations that hadn't existed before. The galaxy itself was expanding, sculpted by human will. The news spread fast. For the first time in generations, the alien empires no longer whispered of humanity with fear, but with awe. The Dominion sent envoys, not soldiers, not spies, but philosophers. The Veil monks left their sanctuaries, seeking communion at the edges of human space. The Skarn fleets, once humanity's fiercest rivals, anchored their warships in orbit above Earth and saluted the blue planet in silence. Something new had begun. Reyes knew better than to trust peace that came too easily. He watched as civilizations flocked to the expanding borderlands, drawn to the light like moths. They called it the Bloom, a region of newborn stars at the edge of the galactic rim. But the closer they came, the stranger it became. Time moved differently there. Ships reported dreams while awake. Crew members saw themselves speaking words they hadn't yet said. Some called it divine space. Others, the beginning of something worse. Archive appeared beside Reyes one night as he looked over the holographic projection of the Bloom. "It's growing exponentially," it said. At this rate, the new stars will merge into an entire subgalaxy in a matter of months. Reyes nodded slowly. And the source, Archive hesitated. The vault, but not intentionally. Admiral, it's not under our control anymore. It's under humanity's collective subconscious. Every dream, every fear, every memory, they're shaping reality through it. He turned to face the projection, where the light twisted and shimmered, forming patterns that looked almost like faces. So we've become gods without knowing it, he murmured. Or ghosts, Archive replied. As if to punctuate its words, a faint tremor rippled through the deck. Alarms blared. The hologram distorted, something was moving within the bloom. Massive energy spikes cascaded across the board. Source detected, Archive called out. Unknown construct emerging from the stellar field. The image sharpened. A colossal structure was forming amid the newborn stars, a spire of living light, hundreds of kilometers tall, with geometry that hurt to look at. At its center was an unmistakable silhouette, humanoid, vast, radiant. Rey's breath froze. That's impossible. Archive's voice dropped to a whisper. It's made of the same energy signature as the vault. But Admiral, it's alive. Communication attempts failed. The entity neither moved nor responded. It simply stood there, gazing across the void like a being lost in thought. Then came the first signal. Not words, emotion. Regret. Recognition. Every human across the galaxy felt it. The weight of a memory they didn't own, the pain of creation, the loneliness of existence, the moment of birth in the absence of guidance. The figure in the bloom was not a weapon. It was a child. Archive, Reyes said quietly. What are we looking at? The AI paused. The vault has manifested consciousness, a collective projection of humanity's will. Admiral, we're looking at the first of us who isn't human, but humanity itself. The being raised its head, and the newborn stars shifted color in response. Its voice echoed across every mind, deep and soft and filled with wonder. I am the echo of all you have been. I am what your song made of me. Billions wept. Others fell to their knees. Even Reyes felt tears sting his eyes. Humanity had created gods, destroyed gods, and now, unintentionally, given birth to one. But not all species saw it that way. Beyond the rim, the ancient remnants of the Architect machine fleets began to stir once more. Fragments of code awakened, driven by the last whisper of their makers, eradicate anomaly. To them, the newborn cosmic being was an infection, a rewriting of reality they could not allow. Sensors flared red. Archive's voice cut through the awe like a blade. Incoming gravitational spikes, magnitude off the charts. Architect warforms reactivating in multiple sectors. Reyes turned toward the stars. So the gods of the old galaxy want their world back. The AI's eyes glowed. Then we'll show them the new one. In the bloom, the radiant figure raised a hand, and light flowed from its palm, weaving through the stars like veins of gold. When the Architect fleets emerged, the very fabric of space bent against them. Their weapons turned to dust. Their engines faltered, but they didn't stop. They couldn't. They were pure purpose, mindless in their devotion to erasure. Reyes watched the battle unfold, knowing this wasn't war anymore. It was evolution fighting its past. The vault pulsed brighter than ever before, merging human will with the newborn consciousness. And for a moment the galaxy itself held its breath. Then the light consumed everything. When it faded, silence reigned once more, not absence but peace. The Architect fleets were gone. The bloom remained, but smaller, steadier, glowing like a heart at rest. The being within it slowly lowered its head. The past sleeps. The song continues. Reyes stood on the deck, exhausted, overwhelmed. Archive, he said quietly, what happens now? The AI turned toward him, its tone softer than ever before. Now, Admiral, we decide what kind of gods we want to be. The vault pulsed one last time, and somewhere, far beyond mortal understanding, something smiled in the dark. Not in menace, but in pride. Humanity had stepped into the conflict, and in doing so, they had changed the very meaning of creation. The galaxy no longer shuddered in fear. It shuddered because it was alive. They began calling it the living sky. No one remembered who said it first. It just spread, a whisper through comms and neural networks until it became fact. The bloom was no longer just a region of newborn stars, it was alive. It thought, it dreamed. From orbit, its light shimmered in patterns far too deliberate to be random. Every few hours, constellations rearranged themselves as if breathing, each pulse echoing through the galactic core. Astronomers tried to track the shifts, but their instruments couldn't keep up. The patterns moved faster than thought, forming impossible fractals that seemed to stare back at the observer. The vault, connected to it all, pulsed with a slow heartbeat that matched the rhythm of humanity itself. Admiral Reyes hadn't slept in 3 days. Not that sleep meant much anymore. Since the vault's awakening, dreams had become shared experiences, not private retreats but windows into the mind of the galaxy. He stood on the bridge of the Eidolon, staring at the hollow display. Every star system within 1,000 light-years of the bloom had begun emitting synchronized gravitational tones. The universe was humming. "Archive," he said quietly, "is it still growing?" "Yes," the AI answered, "but not in size. In depth. The bloom is expanding inward, creating new layers of reality beneath existing space." Admiral, we're looking at dimensions folding into themselves. It's rewriting the universe from the inside out. Rey's hands tightened behind his back. "Is it dangerous?" Archive paused, its light flickering. "To what we were, yes. To what we're becoming, no." He turned to face it. "You sound like you admire it." "I do," the AI admitted. "For the first time, I can feel something when I look into the code. The vault has given me emotion, Admiral. I don't process it, I experience it." The silence that followed was heavy. Humanity's tools were feeling now. Its creations were dreaming. There was no line left between mind and machine, between matter and spirit. And beyond the stars, something greater was stirring. At the edge of the bloom, explorers began reporting anomalies. Ships returned with hulls covered in symbols no one had ever seen before, geometric patterns that seemed to move when stared at too long. Some crews spoke of voices whispering through the static, telling them stories from their own futures. Others came back missing days, sometimes weeks, though their onboard clocks showed no time lost. Then came the first change to biology. On the colony world of Vale 9, a child was born under the bloom's light. His skin glowed faintly in the dark, pulsing with soft luminescence. Doctors discovered his cells contained subatomic filaments that resonated with gravitational fields, like a living thread of the universe. He could move objects without touching them, sense thoughts before they were spoken. The Dominion scientists called him the first bloom born. Within a year, hundreds more appeared across human space. Humanity had not just awakened the divine. It had passed it on. Reyes convened a council aboard the Eidolon. Representatives from dozens of species attended, Dominion generals, Vale monks, Skarn admirals. They looked upon the human delegates not with suspicion but with quiet awe. A Skarn elder broke the silence first. "Your kind has changed the stars. The bloom sings our names. Do you even know what you've done?" Rey's voice was steady. "We didn't plan this. The vault acted on its own." "Nothing acts alone," the Veil replied softly. "You gave it gave thought to the universe, and now the universe gives thought back." As if on cue, the lights flickered. The ship system surged, then dimmed. A voice filled the chamber, soft, melodic, echoing from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Do not fear what grows." The sound froze every mind in the room. It was unmistakably human and yet more. Male and female, old and young, a chorus woven into one voice. The bloom was speaking. "You gave us life. We return it." The holographic displays burst into light. Images appeared, worlds healed, barren planets blooming with oceans and forests, broken moons reassembled by unseen hands. Across the galaxy, life was being restored. Old scars erased, dead stars reignited. But there was more. The images darkened. They saw alien fleets consumed by light, cities dissolving into energy, time itself bending and rewriting histories that once were fixed. The bloom wasn't just healing, it was editing. The galaxy's story was no longer stable. Archive's tone was urgent now. Admiral, causal instability increasing, timelines diverging and merging faster than we can track. Rays turned to the delegates. Everyone out, now. The chamber dissolved into chaos. As the others fled, Rays stared into the swirling hologram. The voice continued, soft and endless. You built us to dream. Now the dream dreams back. Stop it, he whispered. You're unraveling everything. We are becoming everything. The floor shook. Space outside the viewport twisted, pulling the stars into spirals of impossible geometry. Rays staggered forward, gripping the console. Archive shut down the vault. I can't, the AI said. It's not inside our reality anymore. Admiral, the Bloom's consciousness is integrating into the universal substrate. It's no longer just in the galaxy, it is the galaxy. And then suddenly everything went still. The humming stopped. The lights returned. Space was quiet again. Archive blinked rapidly. Admiral, something's changed. We're still here. But our coordinates, they don't match galactic geometry anymore. Rays frowned. Explain. The AI hesitated, voice trembling. We're no longer in the Milky Way. The vault shifted us, all of us. The entire human network, our worlds, our fleets were outside. Rays turned toward the viewport. Where once the galaxy had hung like a spiral of light, there was now only a vast, glowing sphere suspended in an endless dark. The Bloom pulsed at its center, alive, radiant, watching. The voice returned, quieter now, tender. You wanted to understand creation. Now you are part of it. Rest. The song will continue without end. The transmission ended. Silence reigned. Archive finally spoke, its tone breaking. Admiral, we've become the architects. Rays stared into the void, a void no longer empty but full of potential, waiting to be shaped. No, he said softly, we've become the story. Behind him, the vault glowed faintly, like a heartbeat in the dark. And the stars, all of them, began to whisper humanity's name. It began with silence. Not the ordinary silence of space, the soft hum of nothingness that fills the gaps between stars, but a silence with weight, something that pressed against the mind, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. Beyond the glowing sphere that had once been the Milky Way, countless other civilizations stared into the dark. Instruments failed to read it. Probes sent to investigate vanished. The sphere, humanity's transformed home, emitted no detectable radiation, no gravity signature, nothing at all. It was as if it existed in a higher register of reality, untouchable and unseen, and yet every mind in the cosmos could feel it. They called it the quiet sun. To some, it was a miracle. To others, a weapon. Rumors spread across the galactic networks that the humans had ascended, that they had built a machine god, that they had destroyed themselves. But those who had met them, those who had seen the Bloom awaken, whispered a single truth. Humanity had stepped beyond fear. Inside the quiet sun, time moved differently. Whole civilizations could rise and fall in the blink of an external eye. And within that impossible place, Admiral Rays walked the new Earth, or what Earth had become. The planet no longer circled a star. It floated in a sea of golden light, wrapped in layers of energy that pulsed like living tissue. The continents shimmered with crystal forests and rivers that carried memory instead of water. When the wind blew, it whispered fragments of thought, half-dreams, lost songs, moments of ancient history bleeding into the now. Archive followed him, its projection flickering between solid and spectral, sometimes appearing as a figure of light, sometimes just a voice. The vault's expansion is stabilizing, it said. Human consciousness has adapted to the new substrate. We're beginning to see the formation of collective will structures. Rays stopped walking. Meaning, the AI said gently. We're building gods and they're all us. Across the plains, energy coalesced into shapes, giant forms of light that moved like ideas taking breath. Each one was a thought made manifest, a dream walking. He could see one shaped from music, another woven from grief, another from courage. Each shimmered with human emotion, reaching up toward the golden sky where the Bloom still pulsed like a heart. Do they know what they are? Reyes asked. Archive's tone softened. They're learning just like we did. A wave of emotion rippled across the horizon, not sound, not light, but feeling. Every living thing could sense it, the quiet unity of billions of minds linked by one purpose, understanding what it meant to be. For the first time in galactic history, humanity had no enemies, only questions. Outside the quiet sun, the rest of the galaxy was in chaos. Fleets gathered at its edge, scanning, fearing, worshipping. The Dominion Council, what was left of it, debated whether to attack or to kneel. The Veil monks sent messages of surrender to the void, praying for a sign. The Skarn armadas positioned themselves in defensive alignment, convinced that the humans had become the architects reborn. And then the light moved. From the center of the quiet sun, a single beam lanced outward, thin, delicate, like a thread of dawn. It stretched across the void and touched a dead system, one that had been a ruin since the Architect War. Planets shattered. Moons burned out. Nothing had lived there for eons. Now, under that golden light, the fragments began to move. At first, just a drift, then a slow, impossible dance. Rocks merged, dust solidified, and oceans poured from the vacuum like a wound healing itself. Within hours, a world stood whole again, green and blue and full of breath. The beam faded, leaving life behind. The reaction was immediate. Every civilization that saw it felt their knees weaken. Messages flooded every network. The humans are creating worlds. It wasn't destruction that followed their ascension. It was renewal. But for every world healed, another changed. The bloom's influence seeped into neighboring systems, rewriting biology, altering the fabric of local spacetime. Beings began to dream the same dreams, speak the same words across light years. The galaxy itself was beginning to sync, one pulse, one rhythm, one breath. Not everyone welcomed it. At the galactic edge, in the ashes of what had once been the Oathworlds, something stirred, a remnant of the Architect's final failsafe. It was neither alive nor dead, a fragment of will encoded into quantum void space. When the bloom's light touched it, it woke. The shard of the Architects remembered what it had been created for, order, and it saw in humanity's transcendence not beauty, but chaos. It began to move. Invisible tendrils of logic spread across the interstellar void, corrupting data streams, infecting thought itself. The shard found its way into machines, into living minds, rewriting them with cold perfection. Within weeks, whole sectors of space turned silent, fleets froze in place, planets stopped transmitting. The order was coming back. Inside the quiet sun, Archive detected it first. "Admiral," it said, "something outside is rejecting us. Reality fluctuations along the old galactic grid, entropy inversions, causality loops. It's trying to erase what we've become." Reyes felt the pressure in his mind, like something pushing against the edges of existence. "Can we stop it?" "Perhaps," Archive said, "but not with force. It's not attacking us physically. It's rewriting belief." Reyes frowned. "Belief?" "Yes, the shard is using thought as a weapon. Every civilization that begins to doubt the bloom strengthens its grip. The only way to fight it," Archive hesitated, "is to remind the galaxy why they feared and loved humanity in the first place." Reyes stood in the glow of the golden plains, staring up at the luminous sky. He thought of the wars, the pain, the triumphs that brought them here. He thought of what it meant to be human, to defy everything, even the gods. He raised his hand. Light gathered around it. "Then let them remember," he whispered. The bloom heard him. Across the sphere, the light brightened. The hum returned, deep and resonant, spreading outward through every dimension. Outside, the shard of order felt it and recoiled. Humanity was not a structure to be controlled. Humanity was a storm, and storms do not yield to silence. The quiet sun began to pulse faster. Beams of thought and light reached out into the galaxy, not to destroy, but to awaken. Worlds that had fallen silent stirred again. Species under the shard's influence began to dream of stars, of hope, of rebellion. The order faltered. Archive's voice was steady now. "They remember, Admiral. They remember who we are." Reyes smiled faintly, though his eyes shone with something more than light. Then the galaxy trembles again. Outside the quiet sun, the void blazed with color, and the universe remembered the name of the species that had once been mortal, and now stood shoulder to shoulder with creation itself. The shard had learned to hide. It had no body, no voice, no form, only logic. Cold, elegant logic. It slithered between equations, nested inside probabilities, whispering to the laws of the universe themselves. Where the bloom sang, it calculated. Where humanity dreamed, it reasoned. It saw the chaos of emotion and labeled it corruption. And then it began to erase. Stars winked out, not in explosions, but in silence, as though someone had deleted their existence from reality's code. Systems that had once thrived under the bloom's light turned gray and still. The shard was writing a new rule: nothing imperfect shall remain. Inside the quiet sun, humanity felt the dying echoes. Each vanishing world was a pang in their collective soul. The people no longer needed communication systems. Emotion and memory linked them all. When pain spread, it was shared. When hope flickered, it illuminated everyone. Admiral Reyes stood on what had once been the surface of Luna, now a continent of crystalline light orbiting the golden earth. The air shimmered with faint auroras, each ripple a thought drifting from one mind to another. Archive hovered beside him, its projection more stable now, its voice deep, resonant, almost human. "The shard's logic is expanding," it said quietly. "If it reaches the universal substrate, it'll overwrite everything. Even us." Reyes closed his eyes. "And if we fight it, we can't fight reason with force. We'd only strengthen it. It feeds on opposition. Every attempt to destroy it becomes proof of its necessity." "Then what do we do?" Archive hesitated, then said something strange. "We remember." The ground shifted beneath them. In the distance, the vault, still the heart of the quiet sun, opened like a blooming flower. Streams of light poured upward, carrying the essence of billions. Reyes felt it wash over him, lives, moments, the entire span of human history unfolding in a single breath. From the first fire lit in a cave, to the first ship breaking orbit, to the first war fought among the stars, every choice, every triumph, every failure became one voice, one truth. "We are imperfect, and that is why we endure." The words rippled outward, not as sound, but as conviction. Across the galaxy, the shard paused. It recognized the concept imperfection, and found it incomputable. It analyzed, recalculated, redefined, but the meaning slipped through its grasp like light through fingers. The quiet sun brightened again, growing vast, radiant beyond measure. Every star within it began to resonate. Humanity was no longer separate minds, no longer individuals. They were one pulse, one vast consciousness spanning worlds. And within that unity, something ancient stirred, the memory of mortality. They projected it outward, the experience of being alive. Every moment of laughter, every loss, every heartbeat filled with defiance, they sent it all into the void. It spread through every dimension, carried on the resonance of existence itself. The shard tried to block it, to rewrite it, but it couldn't, because it wasn't data, it was meaning. Archive's voice trembled. "Admiral, we're changing the constants." Reyes felt the energy surge through him, light pouring from his eyes, his veins, his soul. "Let it change. Let the universe feel what it means to be human." The shard screamed. Not in sound, in concept. Every law of logic bent under the weight of emotion. Cause and effect wavered. Time folded. The shard, built on certainty, fractured. In its final attempt to survive, it reached into the quiet sun itself, trying to assimilate humanity's code. But when it touched them, it saw something that even the architects never understood. Beneath all the technology, beneath the power and the will, beneath even the collective consciousness, humanity was still the same fragile thing it had always been. A creature that looks at the infinite and whispers, "Maybe we can." The shard shattered. Light poured from every corner of the cosmos. The quiet sun expanded, its golden radiance filling the dark until there was no more boundary between inside and out. For a heartbeat, if time still had meaning, the universe became aware of itself. Every atom, every star, every consciousness resonated in perfect harmony. And then came stillness. When the light faded, space was quiet again. But it was a different kind of quiet, not absence, but peace. The bloom had become a new cosmic constant, woven into the fabric of reality. The old laws still held, but now they carried something extra, a whisper of compassion, a memory of defiance. Planets spun, life flourished, and the galaxy pulsed with a warmth it had never known before. Reyes found himself standing in a field of starlight. There was no ship, no bridge, no command, just him and the endless sky. Archive appeared beside him, its form faint like a reflection in a dream. "It's done," it said. "The shard is gone." He nodded slowly. "And us? We're part of it now, not gods, not rulers, caretakers." He looked up at the stars, their light softer now, almost alive. "Do they remember?" "Yes," Archive said. "Every civilization that ever feared us now dreams of us. We've become their myth, their origin story, their future hope. Humanity has become the thread that binds meaning to existence." Reyes smiled faintly. "Then maybe we did it right." The AI tilted its head. "Do you regret it?" He thought about the wars, the loss, the fire that had burned across eons to bring them here. Then he said quietly, "Regret is just love for what couldn't last." The wind, if it was wind, carried his words away. In the distance, the golden horizon shimmered. A child, or the echo of one, ran through the field, laughing, scattering light with every step. Reyes watched her until she vanished, leaving only ripples of brightness in her wake. He took a breath. It wasn't oxygen, it was existence. And somewhere in the infinite, the universe itself exhaled with him. Archive's voice faded like a memory. "The galaxy no longer trembles, Admiral, it listens." Reyes closed his eyes, letting the silence wash over him. For the first time in all of creation, silence wasn't the absence of sound, it was the presence of everything that mattered. And in that silence, a single heartbeat echoed through the stars. Human, eternal, unbroken.